brought it to Madame Loisel, opened it, and said, "Choose, my dear." First she saw some bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a Venetian cross in gold and gems of exquisite workmanship. She tried the effect of the jewels before the mirror, hesitating, unable to make up her mind to leave them, to give them up. She kept on asking, "Haven't you anything else?" "Yes, look for yourself. I don't know what you would like best." Suddenly she discovered in a black satin case a superb diamond necklace. Her heart began to beat covetously. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. She fastened it round her neck upon her high dress and remained in ecstasy at sight of herself. Then, with hesitation, she asked in anguish, "Could you lend me this, just this alone?" "Yes, of course." She flung herself on her friend's breast, embraced her frenziedly, and went away with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a success. She was the prettiest woman present, elegant, graceful, smiling, and quite above herself with happiness. All the men stared at her, inquired her name, and asked to be introduced to her. All the undersecretaries of state were eager to waltz with her. The minister noticed her. She danced madly, ecstatically, drunk with pleasure, and no thought for anything in the triumph of her beauty, in the pride of her success, in a cloud of happiness made up of this universal homage and admiration, of the desires she had aroused, of the completeness of a victory so dear to her feminine heart. She left about 4 o'clock in the morning. Since midnight, her husband had been dozing in the deserted little room, in company with 3 other men whose wives were having a good time. He threw over her shoulders the garments he had brought for them to go home in, modest, everyday clothes, whose poverty clashed with the beauty of the ball dress. She was conscious of this and was anxious to hurry away, so that she should not be noticed by other women putting on their costly furs. Loisel restrained her. "Wait a minute. You'll catch cold in the open. I'm going to fetch a cab." But she did not listen to him and rapidly descended the staircase. When they were out in the street, they could not find a cab. They began to look for one, shouting at the drivers, whom they saw passing in the distance. They walked down towards the Seine. That's a river. Desperate and shivering. At last they found on the quay one of those old night-prowling carriages which are only to be seen in Paris after dark, as though they were ashamed of their shabbiness in the daylight. It brought them to their door in the Rue des Martyrs, and sadly they walked up to their own apartment. It was the end for her. As for him, he was thinking that he must be at the office at 10. She took off the garments in which she had wrapped her shoulders so as to see herself in all her glory before the mirror. But suddenly she uttered a cry. The necklace was no longer round her neck. "What's the matter with you?" asked her husband, already half undressed. She turned toward him in the utmost distress. I've no longer got Madame Forestier's necklace." He started with astonishment. "What? Impossible!" They searched in the folds of her dress, in the folds of the coat, in the pockets, everywhere. They could not find it. "Are you sure that you still had it on when you came away from the ball?" he asked. "Yes, I touched it in the hall at the ministry. But if you had lost it in the street, we should have heard it fall." "Yes, probably we did. Did you take the number of the cab?" "No. You didn't notice it, did you?" "No." They stared at one another, dumbfounded. At last, Loisel put on his clothes again. "I'll go over all the ground we walked," he said, "and see if I can't find it." And he went out. She remained in her evening clothes, lacking strength to get into bed, huddled on a chair, without volition or power of thought. Her husband returned about 7. He had found nothing. He went to the police station, to the newspapers, to offer a reward, to the cab companies, everywhere that a ray of hope impelled him. She waited all day long in the same state of bewilderment at this fearful catastrophe. Loisel came home at night, his face lined and paled. He had discovered nothing. Pale. "You must write to your friend," he said, "and tell her that you've broken the clasp of her necklace and are getting it mended. That will give us time to look about us." She wrote at his dictation. By the end of the week, they had lost all hope. Loisel had aged 5 years. He declared, "We must see about replacing the diamonds." Next day, they took the box which had held the necklace and went to the jeweler's whose name was inside. He consulted his books. "It was not I who sold this necklace, madame. I must have merely supplied the clasp." Then they went from jeweler to jeweler, searching for another necklace like the first, consulting their memories, both ill with remorse and anguish of mind. In a shop at the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds which seemed to them exactly like the one they were looking for. It was worth 4,000 francs. They were allowed to have it for 36,000. sorry, it's not time, guys. They begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days, and they arranged matters on the understanding that it would be taken back for 34,000 francs if the first one were found before the end of February. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs left to him by his father. He intended to borrow the rest. So this is a large sum of money, guys. He did borrow it, getting 1,000 from one man, 500 from another, 5 louis here, 3 louis there. He gave notes of hand, entered into ruinous agreements, did business with usurers, and the whole tribe of moneylenders. He mortgaged the whole remaining years of his existence, risked his signature without even knowing if he could honor it, and appalled at the agonizing face of the future, at the black misery about to fall upon him, at the prospect of every possible physical privation and moral torture, he went to get the new necklace and put down upon the jeweler's counter 36,000 francs. When Madame Loisel took back the necklace to Madame Forestier, the latter said to her in a chilly voice, "You ought to have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it." She did not, as her friend had feared, open the case. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she have taken her for a thief? Madame Loisel came to know the ghastly life of abject poverty. From the very first, she played her part heroically. This fearful debt must be paid off. She would pay it. The servant was dismissed. They changed their flat. They took a garret under the roof. She came to know the heavy work of the house, the hateful duties of the kitchen. She washed the plates, wearing out her pink nails on the coarse pottery in the bottoms of pans. She washed the dirty linen, the shirts and dishcloths, and hung them out to dry on a string. Every morning she took the dustbin down into the street and carried up the water, stopping on each landing to get her breath. And clad like a poor woman, she went to the fruitier, to the grocer, to the butcher, a basket on her arm, haggling, insulted, fighting for every wretched halfpenny of her money. Every month notes had to be paid off, others renewed, time gained. Her husband worked in the evenings at putting straight a merchant's accounts, and often at night he did copying at 2 halfpenny a page. And this life lasted 10 years. At the end of 10 years, everything was paid off. Everything. The usurer's charges and the accumulation of superimposed interest. Madame Loisel looked old now. She had become like all the other strong, hard, coarse women of poor households. Her hair was badly done. Her skirts were awry. Her hands were red. She spoke in a shrill voice, and the water slopped all over the floor when she scrubbed it. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she sat down by the window and thought of that evening long ago, of the ball at which she had been so beautiful and so much admired. What would have happened if she had never lost those jewels? Who knows? Who knows? How strange life is, how fickle, how little is needed to ruin or to save. One Sunday, as she had gone for a walk along the Champs-Élysées to freshen herself after the labors of the week, she caught sight suddenly of a woman who was taking a child out for a walk. It was Madame Forestier. Still young, still beautiful, still attractive. Madame Loisel was conscious of some emotion. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? She went up to her. "Good morning, Jean." The other did not recognize her and was surprised at being thus familiarly addressed by a poor woman. "But, Madame," she stammered, "I don't know. You must be making a mistake." "No, I am Loisel." Her friend uttered a cry. "Oh, my poor Mathilde, how you have changed." "Yes, I've had some hard times since I saw you last, and many sorrows, and all on your account." "On my account? How is that?" "You remember the diamond necklace you lent me for the ball at the ministry?" "Yes, well, I lost it." "How could you? Why, you brought it back." "I brought you another one just like it, and for the last 10 years we have been paying for it. You realize it wasn't easy for us. We had no money. Well, it's paid for at last, and I'm glad indeed." Madame Forestier had halted. "You say you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine?" "Yes, you hadn't noticed it? They were very much alike." And she smiled in proud and innocent happiness. Madame Forestier, deeply moved, took her 2 hands. "Oh, my dear Mathilde, but mine was imitation. It was worth at the very most 500 francs.
So stupid.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yes, right?
Ooh.
No, my
Boo, you guys don't like that one?
35,000.
Don't pack
I
up.
was
that.
No, don't pack up. We got 5 minutes,
This makes me
okay?
mad.
I was
I guess it's
expecting.
cool.
I was
Just
expecting
came up
No,
to
you
to
guys
that.
know
find
what's
like
funny?
another one in the box and you could like
You guys
sell
know
it.
what's funny though? My aunt's a jeweler. She says that she sells like those imitation like
What
ones
she
that are
sells?
made out of glass.
Yep.
To like men all the time, and they'll go and they'll propose to their wife, and if she like, and like they won't replace it for the real diamond until like after they're married.
After they're married,
Like, after
to make
they're
sure that she
married.
doesn't take the ring and just leave with it or something.
that's
Oh, that's
smart.
really interesting.
I'm doing
And I find it
that.
hilarious.
Okay, all right, okay, we're a little bit off track. We're definitely off track, actually.
No.
Hey guys,
No,
there is an exercise, page 35 of your homework.
Oh, that,
Okay.
yeah.
Inference. Okay, you're going to need to do this at home. Okay, let's talk through just a little bit of what you're going to do. You're going to determine the meaning of the bolded word by inference. Okay, and then you're going to check your answers with a dictionary and see how close you got. These are quotes from the story that we just read. Okay, so if the quote that's around the word is not quite large enough, you can go back to the story in your book of the necklace and you can see a larger quote. Okay, but you're going to guess at what that bolded word might mean. So the first one
So
is,
what you're saying is there are no wrong answers.
there are wrong answers.
Yes,
Well,
there are
well, no,
wrong
when you
answers.
guess, it's not wrong. I'm not going to mark you off as wrong, but it'll be interesting to see how close you are. So the first one is the word artisans. So listen for it in this quote. She was one of those pretty and charming girls born as though fate had blundered over her into a family of artisans. She had no marriage portion, no expectation, no means of getting known. So what do you think artisan is? And you might know what an artisan is. It's not, I should have maybe chosen a different example.
Arson.
Yes. So Josh, tell me your thought process. What do you think an artisan is? And tell me why.
Actually, never mind.
Okay.
Can you read it again?
Yeah.
That one little part
Yeah.
where it says artisan.
She was, okay, so into a family of artisans. Okay,
Oh.
she was born into a family of artisans. Yes, Michael.
Like rich people.
Okay, so think of the word. I'm sorry, maybe you don't know what artisan is. That's okay. So
Oh.
artisan. What do you hear? What kind of word do you hear in artisan?
Art.
Art.
Is it like
Artist.
someone
to create something.
And a
Artists.
son.
Artists, right? Okay, but also, what do you infer about an artisan from what this is saying?
They have
She was-
talent.
Pretty and well.
It's that they have money.
She was pretty and charming. She was one of those pretty and charming girls born as though fate had blundered over her into a family of artisans. So they're saying she's pretty and she's charming, but fate blundered. Fate messed up when she was born into a family of artisans. Keep listening. She had no marriage portion, which I'm assuming means like a dowry. No expectations, meaning no one's looking for her, right? No means of getting known. So what else do you know about artisan? What the word artisan?
They're not that rich.
They're not wealthy.
Yeah.
They're
I said
not.
they were irrelevant people.
Okay? So what would you write down for the meaning of artisan before you go and look it up?
Average.
Poor, what else?
Average, maybe.
Average. Maybe people who
Hey,
create
you literally took the
create
exact same word that I
things.
just said.
That idea, people who create things, okay? And then you would look up the word. You would look up the word to see how close you were. So what I want you to do is on this paper, I want you to write down what you think the word means, and then I want you to look it up. You don't have to write down the definition, but I want you to, if the definition's different, I want you to make note of it.
Okay.
If it's pretty close, I want you to just go ahead and check the thing. But I'm not grading for whether it's correct or not.
Okay.
I'm grading for whether it's complete and thoughtful.
Okay.
Got it? Okay, so that's going to be part of your homework. To do that, I really wanted to get a lot more of that done in class, but we are basically out of time. So hold on just a second, let me make sure.
How early
Pages-
do these other kids get out of class?
I know,
They've
right?
been eating
I
already.
know.
And we're
Well, it's pizza. It's pizza, so you're going to get yours. And then pages 86 and 87 is a character analysis that you are going to do
Okay.
about the protagonist in the necklace that we just read. Okay? And then
Who's the end?
you are not going to be working on biblical allusions.
Yeah.
You are going, not this week. You are going to take notes on the pages that are about fate, chance, and providence. It's
Okay.
2 pages in your book. You're going to take notes and hand those in. And then you're going to do that brainstorming
Think about-
thesis,
yeah.
quotes with explanations about that essay idea. Okay? Listen,
Don't pack.
we'll talk more about this next. Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. Okay,
Can we
you
talk
are
about-
free to pack up and
my
go.
pencil.
Yeah. Can you turn that off, Ethan, for me?
I get